Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sakshi Java, and as you can see, I am the Chief People Officer for Tiki. I have been in Vietnam now for last 12 months, but this is not my first stint in Vietnam. I lived in Vietnam from 2010 to 12, and it's really exciting to be here to see so much differences that have come in the last 6 to 7 years. In general, as a career, I have worked and lived in 6 different countries, all in human resources. In my last 8 years of my human resources career, I have focused mainly on e-commerce and tech. So I have worked with companies like Amazon, based out of India, as well as Singapore. And then I worked with Coupang, an e-commerce company based out of South Korea. So I moved to Vietnam from South Korea. It's an interesting time, and this is a very interesting topic which we would be discussing. Being a millennial myself, I do see that there are a lot of changes and challenges that are coming our way as human resource professionals. So to hear the voice of other people as well would be great.
Great. Just in the meantime, here it is, Joe Fall, who's finally joining us. And in the meantime, when you get all seated and relaxed, please, Ching, a bit of an introduction to your really amazing journey as well.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being there, because I know it's lunchtime, and we're gonna try to keep it as much as attractive as possible, so you don't get that much hungry. We're gonna feed you with some ideas. I just have like more or less the same track as Sashi, because I live overseas for many years, and I just come back to Vietnam for just 1 year. With an education project, and by bringing a new learning model to Vietnam, and it really at the heart of the theme of today, which is how can we reimagine work for the millennials, because as we said before, in 2025 there's going to be more than 70%. So how can we make sure that the mindset that we're going to be providing to those youngs that are 18 to 20, that when they get into the labor force, how they're going to be able to cope with the future or whatever comes next. So I think that's a very interesting topic, and that's one of the aim of the Intek Institute.
So that brings us to the last, but definitely not the least, Joan. Please, a bit of an introduction.
Sure. My name is Chinh Phan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GetLinks. We're a technology hiring marketplace. 4 years ago, we dreamed to build the next LinkedIn for technology professionals in South Asia. We've been working very hard, from small events in my room with 10 people. Now we have 500,000 technology talents on the platform. And we've got founded by Alibaba last year, as well as JobsDB, which is one of the major players in recruitment in South Asia. Okay, what's the topic about? I think I'm a millennial. I'm born in 1992, so I'm probably one of the youngest guy founding a company in South Asia. I'm a foreigner, but what I see in South Asia is a lot of common characteristics, right? I'm French, you're Vietnamese, but we still high five, and we still watch the same movie, we still listen to the same music, and still have the same habits. That's why it's so fun for guys like me to meet all of you, and I hope we can meet more, gather more. So thanks for this event to organize that. I think this topic is really boring topic because it's at every conferences. So I will try to spice it up and bring some shades that maybe you haven't seen usually. I think one interesting point, of course, we talk about lifelong learning, education. But I think one interesting point is really what's going to happen in the next 30 years, right? And we see that today emerging markets like Vietnam are really booming, and they're all trying to catch up on the globalization that Europe and the US have got 50 years ago. But when you look at the US, is the model really working? Right? I think today with China and the pattern, the trade war that's happening, it's a very interesting discussions to have, right? Capitalism, communism, growth. Will we have growth next 50 years? Probably not, right? Not as much as the last 100 years, right? Automation, will we have the same jobs? Probably not, right? Climate change, we will have the opportunity to have the same cities, right? Capital of Jakarta is relocating to another spot because the sea is rising there. So I think millennials will have to face all these challenges, and that's going to be pretty epic for some that can actually take the lead and be able to reshape who we are as millennials and maybe fix some of the mistakes that our parents have done. We have a lot of work. So yeah, I hope we can share that during this panel.
All right, thank you all for that. I actually find it really nice and fascinating that we have three aspects of people working with people here. So we have you training young talent in digital skills and of course tech. You having a chance to offer them opportunities that are there, and you essentially stand on the hiring side, and all of you are obviously experiencing different things. And we've said that millennials tend to be behaving in a certain way, and we all think that we know what that means. However, what we've just discussed in the past, let's say 2 hours or so when we've met, is that I don't think that there should be a general way of how we think about them, that each of them is also quite different, and that there's obviously a lot of international characteristics. So let's start first with looking at a bit of those profiles of a millennial that you see. Perhaps it's actually, you have a really interesting way of how you would describe them. What is a millennial to you?
So, a millennial to me is something, people who want recognition. That is the first thing which I see in the relatively young workforce, and I have worked, as I said, in 6 different countries and worked a lot on global projects. There are broad strokes which every millennial does want and expect an organization to give, and then there are cultural nuances that come into existence, and they can be very different from what millennials in Vietnam are looking at versus what millennials in South Korea look at versus what millennials are looking at in US. But the broad strokes, according to what I think after working in these countries, one definitely is recognition of the work they're doing. Second thing is inclusion. They want to know why they're doing it. They want to understand the vision. They want to understand where is the company growing, rather than the Gen X where the work was given, the goals were set, and people just worked on it. Millennials want an update. Millennials want to know what is going on. The second big thing, which is a drastic shift that has come in the last 10 years, is millennials are attracted to global projects. Millennials are attracted to places where they can travel, go, learn new experiences. Even if they fail, they're open for failures. So that's a very, very new thing that is emerging, and as I see in the future, these would be probably pillars on which companies will start hiring. If you show them recognition, if you show them inclusion of where the company is growing, as well as give them global opportunities to interact and run projects, millennials would probably choose those companies than traditional companies right now. Compensation, yes, matters, but I think these are bigger factors which millennials are looking at right now.
Great. And Chinh, you are training young, let's say young people, right? Millennials. Between 18 to 26 years of age, and they're coming from very different backgrounds, and their goal is to get new opportunities, and get like a new job that, let's say, millennials want these days. What do they want?
I think first, I have to just balance what Sasha just said, because if I put back in the context of Vietnam, I think there's the culture of Vietnamese culture and also the Asian culture, whereby there's a lot of respect towards the family hierarchy, as well as the hierarchy within an organization. So when I have a student coming to my place where it is quite free compared to the traditional education system, because at Intek education is more about setting up the right environment for them to nurture their inner talent. That's what we say. But when we see them, first of all, that's a little bit contrary to what we can see in other countries with regards to millennials, which is we don't see any ownership or accountability. And even when we talk about doing their homework or doing a project, I'm not talking about doing something that when they're working, but it's the same. So I think that's something that we have to work, at least in Vietnam, about how to make sure that they feel accountable and they take ownership of their own life. And that's something that is very important. And the second thing is, at Intek, they feel it's like an island of freedom. But as soon as they go out, they get back to the pressure or the cultural pressure of the parents and of the family. But I can't say it's a bad thing. It's a good thing as well. And it comes back to where you have to find the right balance between what technology in terms of progress it can help, in terms of shorten the distance for people that live far away to get the knowledge, but at the same time you have to make sure that you keep the tradition links, which is the human interaction, and you need to keep it, and that's the strength for the Vietnamese youth compared to other countries. So it's again what the learning model that I'm bringing from overseas is good as a first step when you look at it, but it only makes sense if you really Vietnamize it to the extent that it has to be empowered, it has to be taken by the Vietnamese as if it is their own learning model. So I think that's where I think the millennials have all the chance. But again, it's Vietnamese millennials. So there's many definitions, as we mentioned before, when it comes to millennials.
Okay, and then let's say that now they have all the skills that are currently in demand, but they also tend to be a bit more asset selective because there's a lot of opportunities there, and they all want these nice jobs. And I really am curious, Joan, based on your experience, what kind of jobs are they actually looking for?
So I will represent the millennial. I think first they don't know what they're looking for. I think two, they're completely lost, because we are, I feel lost sometimes. And three, they don't have the skills for the market yet. And that's really the three big problems. And I think it's coming back to what you said. They look for recognition because they don't feel like they're accomplishing themselves today. I think the access of information that we have been granted with the internet is a double-edged sword, right? In the meantime, we can access to all the knowledge, all the news in every market, but for a lot of us, it's freaking us out, right? Seeing that, you know, what's happening in the world with all this terrorism and all of that is really freaking us out. So yes, when we want to work for something, we rather try to take on a global project that will try to have a global impact. Because we've seen so much news about the bad things, we want to do something about it. But it's very hard for us at our local level to find a job that relates to that, right? And that's why we try to go to Google, right? Those big companies or those big projects that are changing the world, right? So I think that's on the what do you want to do, right? We don't know, and we're constantly looking for that. And some companies like Google are answering that question somehow. Secondly, in terms of the skill set, no, we don't have the right skill sets yet. And I think we are all realizing it, which is even more scary. Because we graduate from 10, 15 years at school and we realize that, oh, actually, I cannot get a job decently paid with the skill set that I've got at school. So I think this is a big deal. We all millennials are going to have to adapt even more than our parents. Our parents, they graduated from accounting, they worked in accounting for 10 years, 20 years in the same job, that's fine. The tenure and the number of jobs that we will have millennials on average are going to be around 4 jobs minimum during our lifetime. My grandma had only one job. She was a secretary. She did the same thing every day for 50 years. We're going to have to reinvent ourselves, to adapt ourselves every 2-3 years. And we're probably also going to have to do 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, right? I'm seeing people who are like accountant during the day, they are Photoshop designer at nighttime, and they are makeup artists on YouTube with followers, and they're making money from those 3 different ways, right? So we don't know what to do yet, but I think the opportunities from digitalization are giving us more ways to answer that question. So I think my answer would be we don't know. We're looking for answers, and I think that's what really is the key intrinsic thing of millennials. We're trying to find ourselves. And I think for those lucky who do, then they do very powerful things. But a lot of my friends and myself sometimes feel like, okay, what should I do next? Right? So that's where platforms can maybe help, right? Online platforms, as well as organizations like schools that are actually guiding you, are very important, I think, for millennials for next decade.
So actually, you have, however, also said that you have seen a lot of changes lately in terms of when they do have a job, what kind of jobs they tend to choose.
So I have seen this change in the last 7 to 8 years, where it is just not the company interviewing the millennials. The millennials are also interviewing the companies. The sense of job insecurity is gone, because they have 5 choices and they will pick up the best which matches their interests, which matches their career ambition, and that can keep changing. So they are okay to get into a job and leave after 1 year if the company is not able to meet the promises they have done. The second thing which has emerged now, and is emerging still in Vietnam, but I have seen in more countries like India or in US, is millennials are looking for accountability and they're looking for flexibility in work. They do not want to clock in 9 to 6. They do not want to work in a 9 to 6 environment. They want a set of goals given to them and they want to deliver. They do not want to say, I'm going to show up at work and I'm going to be at work. We don't know what they're doing at work. They may be watching YouTube. So they want an accountability-based culture. That is a starking difference which I have seen that has come up in the last 5 to 6 years. Usually when there are interview panels are there. So for example, in Tiki we have an interview we go through an interview screening for 5 to 6 rounds of interviews. And a lot of times the millennials particularly come back and say, hey, I want to talk to HR. And that sometimes is like, why? And then they come and ask these questions. What are the policies? How much do you let us take leave? Can we travel while we are working? So these are questions which millennials are asking, and they say, my decision depends on how you answer those questions. So the roles are reversing right now. So, and I can clearly see that is getting even more. I go for campus hirings, not in Vietnam, but I used to go for campus hirings in Singapore, in India. The students fresh out of campus ask me, why should I take your job and why should I not take the job which the company next to you is offering me? Give me what are your selling points. So the world is changing. I think for companies it is becoming very important that we also change and we meet the millennial needs and ambition at the same time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, a lot of new platforms are designed in that way now, where this is not the candidate who is applying to a job, it's really the company who is applying to talents, right? And I think this is the way that should be going. It doesn't mean that the company doesn't have the power, because at the end they are the one choosing. But I think this is really the way this is designed. I think during the last, if you think about it, during the last 50 years, we've been pretty much doing the same thing in terms of recruitment, right? And I think the new operating system of work will be talent-centric. There's a total power shift that is happening. But also, it's not just the recruitment that's changing, this is the workplace. Right? As you said, we're going mobile, right? We want flexibility, we want to work remotely. We don't like 9 to 5, but we can work until 5 a.m. sometimes because we're really passionate about this specific project, right? So all this thing is a new operating system of work, really. And I think not only the organization is going to have to evolve, but also all the structures, right? The school, the universities, we've been doing the same thing for 200 years, right? Since Charlemagne, we're sitting on a class and listening to a teacher. So the organization, the universities, the government is going to have to change as well. And I think this is what makes me really excited about what's going to happen in the next 10 years, because I think millennials are going to really come to be a bit older and be having the power to reshape this economy.
Yeah, John, I just want to add what he just said, because at the end, we come up almost to the end of the panel discussion. At the end, on my side, what I see, and that will join what Sashi and Joan has just mentioned, is on the very early stage, what we are trying to do on the education side is to provide a future-ready mindset, and as to what the platform that he humbly just mentioned very quickly is about what he's called, if you've been to his pitch, is about the economy being adaptive, because it's going to change every 5 single minutes. So being future ready on one side and having and organizing an adaptive economy, I think that's the key for the millennials to feel at their ease, at least.
So just a bit of advertising. I will be publishing a book called The Adaptive Economy by the end of the year. And that will be talking exactly about that. Future of work and how the whole economy needs to be reshaped towards that.
Well, I'm glad that we've addressed a few issues here and that you already know each other very well and are collaborating together. I think this is also the era of collaboration, and millennials are embracing that. And we could be speaking here for another few hours, but if anyone has any questions, please, we're all approachable. You can find us on LinkedIn. We've addressed some of the characteristics of millennials today, some of the challenges that they're facing, but also that people dealing with them, such as employers, are incurring as well. And I think that the future still looks bright, and there's a lot of opportunities. And as long as we keep on transforming ourselves and understanding who we're dealing with, there's no limits there. Thank you all, and very excited about the next talk as well, so please stay in.